Hello everyone and welcome to episode 7 of Java Kickstart. In today's video we're going to be talking about inheritance, and again, like all our videos, they're based off of the textbook Absolute Java by Walter Savitch. Talked about classes and objects, and we talked about the scanner class and how we can make the scanner class into a data type, at which point from that we can access its methods and then do a bunch of stuff with it. At the same time, we also did the same with methods and our class methods, and then we did made that into a data type and used a getter to get the value of I, which is just the sum of 1 and 2 and 3. And so in this video, we're going to be talking about inheritance. There we go. Inheritance. There we go. Okay. So in inheritance, again, we obviously want our main method. Inheritance is a very interesting and sometimes difficult to get your mind around. But how it works is you have a class. Okay. Let's just put this in a comment. I'll put an extended comment. We're probably gonna there we go. So you have a class. Back up there. There we go. So you have a class, and then from there you can make something called a subclass. Okay. This subclass has access to all of the different things that the original class has. Okay. So say for example this class has a data type called I don't know, parent, for example. Okay, then this one will have access to parent as well as its own data types. So if you think about it, how it would really work is that, say for example, I know that I'm gonna have to type A 10 times. Well, if I just copy and then paste it, that would make it a lot easier, and then I can do that several times. And so that's what it allows to do. But what if I need slight variations between each one? So say but after let's say 4 A's, I want a space. Well, you can change that and you still won't have to worry about the bulk of the whole thing, and that it's all reusable and very easy to use. And so let's get official with the names. So this is called the parent class, and then this is called the child class. And obviously, as you'd expect, parent class has, let's say the default, and then child class has, the variations to it. Okay, so let's send this to the bottom. Okay, let's work over here now. So let's declare a value called data type called scanner, input equals, there we go. Okay, and then I know, actually, let's keep this out for now. Okay, so I know that let's take a sample problem in that I want to have, I know that I want to multiply. So I want to multiply several times. Okay, this is in the parent class. Okay, parent. Okay, in the child class, I want to add and multiply. Okay, and so we can do that very easily. So let's firstly make a method called public int multiply, and then we'll have int a, int b, and then we will return a times b. Okay, and then let's have a constant variable. So int j equals, let's declare it up here. So int j equals 1. And so we can do times j, which will always just be the same. So let's make it 2 actually. So we'll always have double of what you want to multiply. And then of course you need the public inheritance. And then you want your int a, int b, because those two values have to be introduced, and then you want to multiply a and b. Okay, so now we have that done. But if you think about how this whole thing works, is when I declare a value, okay, when I declare inheritance, I'm going to multiply a times b, but it's not going to do anything. Okay? And so we're just going to remove that for now. Okay? However, say for example, I make a new Java class and I call it child class. How do I inherit all of the things in inheritance? I simply put extends inheritance. And there's an issue. What's that issue? Let's figure that out. And that issue is that there has to be its own public child class, int a, int b, super ab. Okay, so what does that all mean? The first thing, the super class, the super method, you should say, calls the method of the inheritance or the parent class. So if you ever want to access anything from the parent class, you always hit super, okay? At the same time, because I have public inheritance A and B, and I'm extending that, I have to have A and B declared as well. Okay, what if, for example, I try putting int c? No issue, right? Why is that? Is because, like I said with this, back here, the child class can have variations. It has access to the parent class as well as its own data types and its own aspects that it can do whatever it wants. Okay, and so let's put a main in here, and then let's go let's call the method multiply. How do you think we would do that? You think we can just go multiply? Well, no, you can't. But you can go super.multiply. And now I can access the same method from over here. And obviously there's a related problem. So let's go 2 and 2. There we go. Okay. Now what's the issue that we have here is because it's a static context. And so let's make that static. There you go. And then this one won't work. Okay, let's just get rid of J for now. We'll come back to that. And at that point, you wouldn't need the super. So there you go. Okay, and then obviously we still have the yellow because, well, there's nothing in there. So I'm just going to say int I, and then I equals multiply. This has to be inside, sorry. X, there we go. Okay. Why is the formatting? There we go. Okay, so what we're going to get is 2 times 2, which is exactly what we have here. Okay, and when I print this, we're going to get none other than 4. So let's wrap this together again, okay? So I have a class called inheritance. Within inheritance, I have methods, okay? Just like any class, okay? Now I know that I'm going to need this either several times, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, however many times. And so I'm going to make something generic, a default that's always going to be there. And then in my child class, I'm going to extend inheritance. I'm going to build on that, okay? And then I can use the functions from it. Okay, but let's make my own function now. Public int add, and then let's have int a, int b, and then let's return the sum of the two of those. Okay, so what if I want to say, for example, that multiply, okay, but at the same time I maybe want to, multiply it by the sum of that. So if I put add 2 times that, okay, this has to be static. There we go. Okay. So what's going to happen now is we're going to get 4 times 4. Well, let's actually make it 3 plus, sure. So we're going to have 5 times 4. Now I made my own method here, and I'm still able to work with both. And so when I get that, we're going to get 20. And so inheritance is very useful in that there's a default. I know that for whatever class that I'm going to extend on inheritance, I may or may not need to use multiply. I might not want to use it at all, but there might be some other data type or variable that's in inheritance that I know is essential for more projects. and then I can build on that in a separate class, and then you can reuse your code several times. And that's why inheritance is so useful. And so what we covered in today's class is the super keyword, which is used to get anything from your super class or your parent class. We talked about inheritance and how you can make a default and then build on that. And then we talked about how you can access the methods and the variables from your parent class in your child class. And then how you can also build on that with your own methods, your own variables, your own loops, do whatever you want from there. And so that's all that I wanted to cover with the scope of Java Kickstart, and we'll see you in the next video.